everybody, my name is Elaine, and today I'm going to be reviewing a Kickstarter game I received in the mail recently, Sam Milham's Lost in Straya. It's a survival card game for 1 to 6 players. It takes about 20 minutes to play, and anyone around ages 8 and up should be able to play it, according to the box. Beautiful. In this game, you decide to go on a trip to Australia because it seemed like a good idea at the time. And while you're there, you go on a safari in the Australian outback. And on that safari, your tour bus breaks down. Oh my! And now you have to escape while the beasties try to get you. And in order to escape, you need to get reception so your cell phone can work and you can call that helicopter or whatever you're doing. You're a dramatic American, apparently. You're getting a helicopter out of there. And that's it. You got to escape before something kills you. Let's talk about how that happens. As I mentioned when we were up top, the goal is to get 3 cell phone reception cards so you can be rescued and escape the outback. Setup for this game is really, really easy. Essentially, you add 3 cell phone cards per player and place them in the Explore deck. So if you have 2 players, it'll be 6. If you have 3, 9, and so on and so forth, all those lovely multiplication tables we learned as children. And then you also add the other card decks, items, and scavenge. The Explore deck has all your scary beasties. It also has the cell phone reception cards, which I just talked about, and also some other helpful cards, which I will get into more later. Items have the things you use to beat off the beasties, and scavenge have the materials you need to make the items to beat off the beasties, which again I will get into a little more later. From there, you shuffle everything, or I should have said you shuffled already and then placed them. I'm silly. It's fine. No big deal. And then you put them all face down in a place that is very easy to reach for everyone. So think of your stubby arm friends like me and place them somewhere I can reach them. And then to start the game, each player receives 2 item cards just to start them off. I set up for a 2-player game, so I'm just going to pretend that we did that. Put everything in front of 2 different people playing. Oopsies. Very neatly. And the game suggests you stack like this if you have multiples of the same item, but if you're one of those people that likes everything like readily visible, you can do that. Doesn't really matter. And then you just decide who goes first. It doesn't really matter who goes first. The game suggests that you let the youngest player goes first, but they're open. You can even let the last person who got stranded in the Australian outback go first. Doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter. So at that point, the first player will take that turn, and then all of the other players will take turns going clockwise. On your turn, you pick up 2 cards from any of the decks. It has to be from the same deck. So if I wanted to get some item cards, because maybe I didn't like what I drew at first, I pick up 2. And then the enemy, filthy people trying to get reception before me, how could you? Maybe picks up 2 Explore cards. And I'm just going to basically play out a few rounds really, really quick. Essentially, because you need to get through these as fast as possible so you can get that reception and beat things off, a lot of people go here first. And you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. We'll just draw these over and over and over again. Well, you can't. What happens is, let's say we get to a point where there's 4 cards out over here in front of this person. That's the limit. You can never exceed 4 beastie cards, or they're called creatures. I'm going to call them beasties. It just sounds nicer. So at this point, this player has to start fighting these guys off. And they do that by using their items. Now, you can't just use the items when you get them. You see at the bottom, they have this like little cloth symbol, so you have to find some cloth. And you find cloth by scavenging in the outback. Well, no luck yet. And I realize I'm not playing in proper turn order. I'm just trying to be educational. Oh, look, you got a cloth. So you could take this cloth, and at the bottom, it'll tell you that lets you beat off something with 1 HP, which I find weird, because this is the only card I've noticed that does this. This had a +2 at the top, but it says 1 HP here. So we find a thing, and like this mud crab has 1 HP to be beaten off, so we can craft this and destroy that. And that allows you to keep moving on, and then you make discard piles. So I'm just going to leave those to the side here. Those are our discard piles. And at that point, this player can draw more cards. But because they have 3 here already, they can only draw 1 from the Explorer at this point. Let's say, they want to do that. Oh, look, they found a reception. That's what reception looks like. Very nice. And then because this doesn't count as a beastie, because it's not a beastie, they can draw another, and it's a camp. Camps are really nice cards. Jeremy seems to be the only person who gets those ever. And it lets you to chuck your swag down and take a rest. And that basically clears that. That's the little text there. So beautiful. And by them, in case it wasn't clear, I mean the beasties. So let's say this person plays the camp card. Because this magpie, I honestly don't understand this at all, is worth 5 HP and they're like, forget that. I don't want that there, so they get rid of that. Alright, cool. They're all clear again. They can keep drawing explore cards. I'll just take a few more out so you get an idea of what these things look like. That's basically it. Just a few more things I want to touch on as we go along. It doesn't say that you can't do this anywhere. You can actually stockpile as much as you want. There's no limit to how many items you can have, no limit to how many scavenged items you can have, so you can just keep building these up and building these up and building these up and building these up. Wow, you are getting a lot of wood today. Let's just pretend that this player had the boomerang for the sake of discussion, but they didn't want to use it right away. There's no rule about this. There's nothing in the the rule book at all, but what we like to do when we play is just turn the card on its side, or sometimes just leave the items underneath, so it's easier to remember that this item is in fact paid for, not just kind of chilling out, so the player doesn't pay for it twice, because that's never fun for the player. And that's it. You basically keep playing until someone gets 3 reception and they're the winner. There is also a single player mode to this game, which I'm going to tell you about for you people in quarantine all by yourselvesies who need something to do. In solo mode, you race against the dust storm to get 3 cell phone reception. So you're going to set up the game as normal and have 6 cell phones, 3 for you, 3 for the dust storm in the Explore deck. And then you're going to take turns with the dust storm. You're going to play for them because the dust storm doesn't have hands, and that's sad. On your turn, you're going to play as you would normally. You're going to pick up 2 cards from any of the decks you want, see if you want to craft anything or if you can, and then fight off beasties if that's an option, and then pass your turn. On the Dust Storm's turn, you're going to remove a card from the Central Explore deck and place it face up as if it were another player playing this character and see what that card is. If they find 3 cell phones before you do, they win. So you're basically just racing against time to beat the Dust Storm. For those of you who might be wondering, this is the Dust Storm card from the Wastelands expansion, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. It's not mandatory to play the solo mode of the game, but it's nice to know that it does exist. Now, the 2 expansions that were unlocked during the Kickstarter are the Wastelands expansion and the Mega Fauna expansion. The Wastelands expansion has a very post-apocalyptic feel, whereas the Mega Fauna is basically like every animal and thing you'd expect to find in Australia, but on steroids, just on a much, much grander scale than normal. Each expansion comes with 10 new beasties, 5 new item cards, but the Wastelands expansion also comes with 3 new reception cards, so you can add another player. I'm actually not a fan of either expansion. I just don't feel like they added any depth to the game. It's basically new cards just like the base game with a small theme slapped on. It's a little more apparent with Wastelands than Megafauna. But basically the layout's the same. You have something like a giant tortoise with its HP. You have a dodo, 2 HP. To be honest, the giant tortoise actually has 2 HP in case that wasn't clear and you can't read it. You have the giant kangaroo, also 2 HP. Giant koala, 2 HP. And then over here you have Big Bill with his 1 HP and the Mad Maniac with 1 HP. There's just nothing special about them, and that really, really bothers me. When I think of an expansion, I usually want to be able to add a new player, and I'm happy that Wastelands did add that new player, the ability to play with someone else. But I also want there to be more depth. Maybe like some new item cards or mechanic that drastically changes the game, and that's just not something you see here, and that really, really bothers me. The cards on the bottom here are not in either expansion. As you can see, they don't have the, Megafauna or the Wastelands symbol here. These are the cards that are Kickstarter exclusive. So you have a Hanging Rock, a Tassie Devil, Flying Fox, and a Blue Bottle. They each have 1 HP with the exception of the Tassie Devil. So if you were to buy your own copy of the game, you would not get these. They are Kickstarter exclusive. You have to be part of the Kickstarter for them to be included. But, I mean, it's 4 cards. It's not going to drastically change your gameplay. They don't add any new mechanics or anything like that. The other changes you might see, depending on if you decide that you're sold on this game, you want your own copy, are just basic box layout designs and also just card quality are going to be the 2 big things that you'll notice. Now that you guys know how to play the game and what to expect if you decide to buy the expansions, I want to take some time to talk about what I think of the game. Basically, my final thoughts, the good and the bad, just total and complete honesty here, in no particular order. First up, I thought the cards were actually pretty good quality. They remind me of those from Dragonwood. They have the same basic texture and finish that's sort of like brushed feeling underneath your fingers, and I really, really like that. They're not the kind of cards where you touch them and they dent instantly, or they bend, or any of those things that people like me just don't appreciate. I also liked how easy it was to clean up and put away. It's very shelf and table friendly. It's also very family friendly. It's something that's very easy to teach to someone who's younger. It's also not a very violent game as far as graphics or even theme are concerned. So it's definitely something that you can play with younger children. The game suggests 8. I feel like 7, maybe even 6 is just totally and completely fine. Honestly, the theme felt like it was slapped on. It really could have been anything, including one of the other games the creator made, which was Lost in Valhalla. I mean, it could have been Lost in Siberia, Lost in the Arctic, Lost in Banana Land. It just did not matter. It was just a very basic survival card game where the theme just did not matter. The art style also isn't my favorite. Everything seems like it's like delightfully deranged, and that just doesn't appeal to me. With that being said, though, I did like the bright, bold colors. I felt like that part was well done, but again, just the art doesn't appeal to me. I'm into more cutesy artwork, more, like elegant kind of artwork, and this just doesn't fit that bill. This game honestly reminded me a lot of the Minecraft card game. You build goodies with the materials you forge. In Minecraft, you use them to get points, and in this game, you use them to fight the beasties so you can get your reception as escape. So, I mean, for me, it just made it feel a little less special than it could have, I guess, which is why I'm mentioning this. But it doesn't make it something that's so similar that you can't have both in your collection. The game is also very luck-based. Sometimes you get reception really early on and the game is very short. Sometimes you get maybe one card each at the beginning and then you're just like digging through this deck and digging through this deck and digging through this deck, and the game lasts a very long time. So I would say that the 20-minute expected playtime is very accurate, but at times it is much, much less than this. So overall, I would give this a 6 out of 10 star rating. It is not a terrible game. It's just not a great game. It's very, very middle of the road, very average for me. Something that you might want to give a try, but not really pick up too often. So I don't know if it's really worth it for a lot of people. If you like what you saw here today, please give me a thumbs up, smash that like button until it's blue. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this review, what you thought of this game, if you backed it or if you've played it, or if it's something you want to pick up. I always like to know what you guys think. Subscribe, ring that bell so you know what's up, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye, guys!